Counsel, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning. If you could introduce yourself to the jury by giving us your name.
Hi, my name's Laura Gregg,
And can you spell your last name?
G-R-E-G-G,
All right, that's great. Where do you work?
Fort Pierce Police Department.
How long have you worked there?
I've been with Fort Pierce for 7 years.
All right. What is your title?
I am a crime scene supervisor.
All right, and what are your responsibilities?
I respond to crime scenes, collect evidence, I do photography, I process evidence, I compare latent prints.
And were you working on the morning of September 23rd, 2021?
Yes, I was.
Did you respond to a crime scene at 3390 Oleander and Skylark Drive?
Yes, I was.
And what was the nature or purpose for the call out?
I was called to a traffic crash involving a pedestrian and a vehicle.
Do you recall about what time you arrived on scene?
I arrived approximately around 7:10 in the morning.
And when you got to the scene, did you talk to anyone?
Yes, I spoke with a traffic homicide investigator, Officer Stokes, and also Sergeant Wackendorf.
Okay. And then upon arriving on scene, what was your purpose there to be at the scene?
To photograph any evidence that was found, to collect the evidence, and then to eventually respond and take photographs of the victim.
And did you, upon arriving, basically take a layout of the scene?
Yes, I did.
And how did that come about?
I start usually outside the perimeter of the scene. I do overall photographs. I move to different angles. Once I finish those, I do intermediate photographs and then close-up photographs of the evidence.
But I guess before you get there, do you walk through the scene with
Yes.
other officers?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then after doing a walkthrough, is that when you begin the photographs?
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you responsible or do other officers actually mark the items before the photographs are taken?
It depends on the scene. With the traffic investigation, Officer Stokes will use orange marking paint. He'll mark the evidence, and then I go through and I'll mark them with numerical placards.
Okay. And do you mark them with the placards when you're photographing them?
I photograph it first without the placards in place, and then after I put them in place.
Okay. After leaving the scene, where did you go?
I went up to Longwood Regional Medical Center.
What was the purpose for going to Longwood?
I went there to photograph the injuries to the victim.
And this is the female child?
Yes, sir.
And then after being at Longwood, where did you go?
I returned back to the scene
And what was the purpose for returning back to the scene?
to finish my photographing, took measurements, collected the items of evidence.
And what type of evidentiary items did you collect?
I collected shoes, pieces of broken plastic, some debris from the vehicle, a backpack, also collected swabs of blood that was located on scene, a cell phone, other items belonging to the victim.
Okay. Later that same day, do you know whether the vehicle that was involved in the crash was located?
Yes, later that afternoon.
All right. And did you go to the scene where that vehicle was located?
Yes, I did.
All right. And did you make any observations about the vehicle?
Yes.
And what were those observations?
There was damage to the right side of the vehicle, the bumper.
When you say right side, are you talking
Passenger side.
Okay.
I'm sorry. There was damage to the passenger side of the vehicle. Consistent, it went from the bumper, up the quarter panel, the hood, the windshield. That was it. And the mirror, side view mirror.
And did you see any items on the vehicle that may have been left behind?
Yes, I located a piece of dark colored hair on the lower bumper, the right bumper, and there was blood on the side view mirror.
Do you know whether that vehicle was towed from that location somewhere else?
Yes, it was towed by Tri-County Recovering and Towing to their inside storage located on Okeechobee Road.
And why was that?
We store the vehicles inside. It's under 24-hour surveillance, and then we can later go in and process the vehicle.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review the photographs from this case, from both the crime scene as well as the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
All right, and are those fair and accurate, those photographs of the scene as it appeared on the day and the vehicle after it was towed?
Yes, sir.
And approach, Judge? I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 12. It's a disc with photographs, crime scene photos, and vehicle photos. Are those photographs that we've been discussing?
Yes.
This time the state requests to move State's 12 in evidence.
Can we approach on this?
All right, without objection, what's been previously marked as States 12 for identification is now in evidence as States 12.
Request to publish with your honor.
No.
These are the scene photographs. I'm not going to spend a long time going through all of them, but can you just kind of basically tell us the layout and what we're looking at?
So this is Skylark and Oleander. We have a shoe there. Back behind here is a shoe. Some other debris from the vehicle in the roadway.
This just shows the same road from the opposite direction.
Correct.
Just for clarification, can we get the witness to identify the photograph by number that is associated with that?
I can announce the number because I can see here.
Let's make sure the record is
Sure.
clear.
All right, so this is photograph of the last numbers are 4882. What are we looking at?
So you have Skylark over to the right. This is, I believe, sock, another shoe. This is the left shoe, the right shoe, and some debris from the vehicle. And this is looking northbound.
This is photo 4892. What are we looking at?
These are close photos of some debris, the sock. Again, you have the left shoe, the right shoe.
That's a sock right there.
Yes, it
Does it appear to be a child's sock?
is. Yes, sir.
Photo 4897.
And this is the left shoe, is consistent with the child's shoe. We have the right shoe here, and some pieces of broken plastic in the vehicle.
All right, 4901. What is this item in the middle?
This is a backpack right here.
4910. Is this the other shoe?
This is yes, the right shoe.
These yellow placards, or these, that is this photo of 4914.
Those are the numerical placards that I put down to mark the pieces of evidence.
Two and three, photo 4928, items 2 and 3, what are those?
Those are broken pieces of plastic that fit to lens from the headlight.
Photo 4943, items 8 and 9, again, what are these?
Again, these are pieces of plastic that fit together with the lens from the headlight.
And then photo 4955, item 12 and then 13.
This is the backpack, backpack. This is a pooled area of blood where the victim's head had landed.
This one, photo 4984, there appears to be an orange short plastic cone, and then photo 4986. Is this the same plastic cone?
Yes, it is.
And obviously, what is this?
This is a cell phone. The orange cone is because we had found it after, as we were walking, looking for more evidence. And
Oh, okay. Photo 5115.
the cone was then replaced with the numerical number 20.
And then 5121, what is this?
This was a key that was found in the grass.
All right, now for the record, looking at the file 2 of the exhibit showing the vehicle. All right, so where is the vehicle located when these photos are taken?
It's at the inside storage for Tri-County Towing.
All right, photo like 0704. What are we looking at?
This is the right bumper area. You have a blue transfer here, and right along here goes up the quarter panel.
Just let me zoom in. Are you seeing that? Okay. And why is that? Why are you notating that?
The child was wearing blue jeans at the time, blue pants,
And then what were you referencing up along the panel?
where it's right, there's an edge right here that has the same blue color. Right up there. This is the hood of the, that's the 0720. This is the hood of the vehicle, and then the windshield.
0724. What are we looking at?
The right side of the windshield, and this is an impact caused by the head.
you put these rulers on here for scale?
Yes.
Photo 0830, or just the green, that's the green ruler?
It's just, right,
Okay, what is that?
Yes, yeah.
What are you indicating?
here it's just marking the damage right here.
Okay. Photo 0848, what part of the vehicle is this?
This is the side view mirror.
Okay, the passenger side?
Yes.
All right, and then what is the ruler marking?
This is, appeared to be blood. When it was field tested, it did test positive for presence of blood.
0849, what is this sort of discoloration?
That's black powder we use to process for latent prints to see if there were any handprints made, anything left on the vehicle.
And then 0857, what's going on in this photo?
This is Officer Stokes piecing together the headlight, the lens for the headlight.
And was this a piece that was collected from the scene?
One of the pieces, yes.
So that was 0857 and then 0861.
And that's me putting it together.
All right, no further questions.
Cross-examination?
Yes. Just a second. Ma'am, I want to go over some of the photographs with you. When you photograph the vehicle, you have total access to the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And so when I say you have total access to the vehicle, you have the ability to sit in the vehicle from the driver's seat, correct?
No, sir. Not
You don't?
Not without the search warrant.
Well, at some point in time during the course of this case, you got a search warrant for the vehicle, did you not?
We did, but I was not present for the
Okay.
search warrant.
All right. So although you say you weren't present, you or someone from your department has the ability to sit in the driver's seat of this vehicle to understand the vantage point that Ms. Cologne had at the time of this accident, right?
Correct.
All right. Now, so none of your photographs, as you sit here today, encompass the inside of the vehicle.
Correct. I did not take photos of the inside of the vehicle.
Do you know who did?
Yes.
Who?
Crime scene investigator Wilson.
Okay.
I have seen her photos, but I was not present for those.
Okay. Give me just a second here. Yes. Okay, let's start with photograph 4882. In this photograph, it's a distant view of what you believe is the significant part of this crime scene as to where the child may have been hit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And as you stand in this position here, is this facing north or is it facing south on Oleander?
This is facing north.
That's facing north on Oleander. And based upon when you arrive on the scene, you get information from the officers about what occurred, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it your understanding that the bus was traveling south and the vehicle driven by Ms. Cologne was traveling north?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to look at the video, the bus video in this particular case?
Yes, I did.
All right. In looking at the bus video, did it help you in any way in your photography of the scene, either days later or at any other point in time?
No, sir. I didn't see the video till 2 days later.
Okay. All right. Now, in this particular photograph, what we can't see and what's not clearly obvious is there is a large pothole that's there on the right-hand side, correct?
Correct, right here.
Right. And what's also important is all of the items that you have photographed appear to be around that particular pothole. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
Majority of them, yes.
A majority of them. Now, when the crime scene is taped off, in this particular case, how large of an area was taped off for the crime scene?
It extended about 30 feet. It went past the vehicles up here, about 30 feet, and it went over on both sides.
Okay. Did you find any significant evidence, debris, outside of the primary area that we're looking at right there?
There was debris all the way almost to these vehicles here. There was debris over here and here, and in this area.
And was that debris that you later associated with this accident or debris that was just there?
This was debris from this accident.
Okay. All right. As we look at the pothole, we go to photograph 4892. You mentioned that you took measurements.
I did not. Officer Stokes did.
Oh. When you testified earlier, did you not say that you
I went
took
back.
photographs of the scene and then you returned to the scene to take
from-
measurements and photograph?
I did not do the measurements.
But that's what you said. You returned to take measurements and photograph.
To do photographs and measurements. I did not say I took the measurements.
So when you say to do measurements, you're not saying that you yourself did the measurement.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know if the pothole was measured?
I do not.
You don't know.
I do know that Officer Stokes measured each piece of evidence.
But as we sit here, there's a piece of evidence that is sitting inside that pothole, correct?
Correct.
And do you know if the depth of that pothole was ever measured?
That I do not. But the damage on the vehicles.
Ma'am, I just need you to respond to my question. That's non-responsive. Just respond to my question. Do you know if the depth of the pothole was ever measured?
I do not.
Do you know if the width of the pothole was ever measured?
No, I do not.
Do you know if the distance of the pothole from the right line of the road was ever measured?
No, sir, I don't.
Do you know the measurement of this particular road as it was on that day on Oleander?
No, sir.
You don't know the measurement.
I do not.
If someone testified that that road is considered to be narrow, would you disagree with that?
Yes.
Rephrase.
In this particular case, there was an issue about lighting. Did you do anything to photograph the street lighting or the lack thereof on Oleander where this accident occurred?
No, sir. It was daylight when I photographed.
It was daylight when you photographed, but once you're on the scene and you're briefed about what's going on, you knew that this accident occurred at 6:30 or so there in the morning, correct?
Correct. And in the overall photos, you can see the amount of lights.
As it relates to the street lights that are available at this particular location, I'm not talking about 200 yards north or 200 yards south, because what's relevant is the lighting for Mrs. Cologne at this location. Did you do anything to evaluate the street lighting at this location?
No, sir, I did not.
As far as you know, because you're providing evidence that you collect to the law enforcement officers in Stokes,
Yes, sir.
did you have a conversation with any officer or Stokes about the lighting in this area?
Just that it was before sunup and the school bus lights were on.
Okay.
That's, as far as that goes, that's all I know.
Any conversations about street lighting or lack thereof?
No, sir.
Okay. Any conversations about the pothole being so close to the road?
No, because it wasn't relevant to what we were photographing.
Well,
Yeah.
it's relevant enough because you have a
Photos.
piece of evidence that you photographed in the pothole, correct?
Correct, but that piece of evidence wasn't marked because we were unsure if the mask had anything to do with it.
Well, ma'am, this occurred in what year?
2020.
I'm sorry, when did this occur?
21.
Okay, this occurred in 2021. And during that time period, were we either not still in COVID or coming out of COVID?
Yes, we were.
So why would you not consider the mask to be a relevant part of the evidence? Perhaps it was worn by the child. You don't know.
No, I don't.
But
She
you
could have
didn't
had
know?
it in her hand. I don't know whether she was wearing it, if it was in her hand, or if it was already dropped by somebody prior to this.
You don't know if the sock belonged to her, do you?
No, sir, I don't.
But you photographed that.
Correct.
You don't know if the cell phone actually belonged to her, do you?
I don't know at all.
But you photographed that.
Correct.
And you're telling this jury that you didn't find it reasonable enough to photograph the mask that's in the pothole, that's also in the area of all of the other debris that you're filming or photographing.
I did
because
photograph the pothole and the mask. I do have close-ups of that.
you didn't mark it.
I don't mark. That was marked by Stokes. Or not marked.
When we look at photograph 4897, there again, it's another close-up of a pothole that is right at the area in which we're anticipating this accident occurred, correct?
Correct.
So when this accident happens, the first officer to respond immediately blocks off the area, right?
Yes, sir.
And they do that in order to preserve the evidence so that you can come out, do your job, photograph, collect, and the jury can later have it for purposes of their review, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. When you reviewed the videotape of this bus accident, of this accident, and the bus is there, did you see any other vehicles pass by at that particular time that would have contaminated the crime scene?
I did not.
Ma'am, when you take a close look at this particular photograph, wouldn't you agree with me that you see what is considered to be fresh tire marks that drive directly through the pothole that's there?
Yes, they come from Skylark Avenue.
Those tire marks appear to be in the same northerly direction as the vehicle driven by Mrs. Cologne was going. Isn't that true?
Yes, but they're coming from east to north, from Skylark on to Oleander. They're not coming straight down Oleander. And there is a shot of that where you can follow the track.
In this photograph, and in the photographs presented to this jury by the state, you don't see these track marks coming from Skylark, do you?
In this photograph, no.
All right. Let's talk about the photographs of the vehicle. When you photograph the vehicle, there again, you pointed out that there was a blue transfer in photograph 0704. There was a blue transfer at the lower passenger side of the bumper, right?
Correct.
Now, you also went to the hospital to photograph a young girl.
Yes, I did.
When you arrived at the hospital, do you know what clothing she was wearing?
She had a hospital gown on, and that was it.
Yeah. Did you ever collect the clothing that she was wearing?
Yes, we collected it.
Okay.
It was-
Did you photograph the clothing that she was wearing?
Yes.
Okay. And when you photographed the clothing that she was wearing, can you explain to the members of this jury if that clothing was dark clothing or light clothing?
I believe the pants were dark blue. The shirt, I believe, was light or lighter.
When you say lighter in relationship to the blue jeans?
Correct.
Or,
Don't remember if they were actual blue jeans or just blue pants.
but you would agree that they were dark clothing?
Correct.
That on a street that is narrow, not well lit by public lighting, street lighting, that it would make it harder to see her standing on the side of the road?
Possibly. With headlights on and school bus lights, I don't know.
Now, on the vehicle itself, the lower right-hand side or passenger side of the bumper is where there was significant damage. How many vehicle pedestrian accidents have you investigated in your, you've been there 7 years?
Yes.
How many, give me an estimate. You don't have to be exact, a rough estimate or range.
Probably about 9.
About 9. And you would agree with me that all 9 of those would be they all have some unique characteristic that's different from the other.
Yes, sir.
And in this particular case, the damage to the vehicle was on the right front portion of the vehicle where it was on the lower front end of the vehicle. Hard to see from sitting in the passenger seat, wouldn't it be?
That would be where the vehicle struck to start with, not whether they could see there's somebody there or not. I cannot answer that.
Would you agree with me, based upon your 7 years of experience, that damage to the lower right front bumper and quarter panel of a vehicle would be difficult to see for a person who's sitting in the driver's seat?
The damage would be, but I don't know if the person would be.
Okay. If the person is wearing dark clothing and it's on a street that's not well lit, do you think that contributes to the limitations of being able to see that person standing on the side of the road?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, as we follow that damage up, there was damage that you said was to the side view mirror.
There was no damage to the side view mirror. There was blood on the mirror.
No damage to the side view mirror, right. But there was blood. And where was that blood?
On the exterior part of the mirror.
It's on the exterior part of the mirror that is on the opposite side for the driver, in this particular case, Mrs. Cologne, to see from the driver's seat. You would agree with that, right?
Correct, but the mirror didn't hit the victim.
Mirror didn't hit the victim. You made that determination based on what?
The mirror was not moved out of place and there was no damage.
So
there was
it's
just
Mrs.
blood
Cologne.
on the mirror.
So Mrs. Cologne is in the driver's seat driving down the road and she hits a pothole and doesn't see a change in the right side mirror that could have possibly hit a person.
I can't say that the mirror hit the person.
Okay.
And
Fair
that
enough.
damage would not have been caused by a pothole.
Okay. So we're in a position that from the driver's seat, you don't see any of the damage to the front end of the vehicle, do you?
She would see the windshield damage.
I'm talking about the bumper, the front end of the vehicle. We'll talk about the windshield. I'm talking about the bumper and the quarter panel.
Nobody would see that damage if they were sitting in the driver's seat.
Nobody would see that damage sitting in the driver's seat. Thank you.
Unless they got out of the vehicle.
Right. unless they got out of the vehicle. So
She
if-
did not.
She did not, until she arrived at home, right?
Right.
And if she arrived at home, gets out of her vehicle, and then she recognizes the damage that, in her mind, is no longer consistent with a pothole, then that should give her concern.
Yes.
Did you photograph the vehicle, or did you attend or go with the other officers when they picked the vehicle up from Mrs. Cologne's home
I photographed it while I was on scene there, yes.
while it was on scene?
At the apartment complex.
Do you recall how far it is from this scene to the apartment complex?
I want to say maybe 4 miles, 5 miles.
4 to 5
I'm not
miles?
positive. Maybe a little bit less.
Maybe a little.
I'd say 3 to 5 miles.
When you photographed the vehicle at the apartment complex, vehicle was parked normally in a parking spot there in the area, right?
Yes, it was.
The vehicle was parked in the clear view of anyone else who lived at that apartment complex who could walk out their front door and see that car, right?
Yes, the apartments that were right there where her car was parked.
Okay. And so that we're clear, this apartment complex is a 2-story apartment complex?
Yes, sir.
So you have apartments on the lower end and apartments on the higher end. Where in relation to that was the car park?
It would be towards the north end of the building, so I think two or three parking spots from the end of the building, in front of
Okay.
a hedge.
Was it parked more directly in front of the building, or was it parked in some secluded area of the parking lot?
It was parked in front of the building.
Parked in front of the
hedges.
building. It's parked in front of the building. You would agree with me then that parking a vehicle that has front end damage and windshield damage in the front of an apartment complex where you've got potentially hundreds of people walking in and out, going to work at 7:30 in the morning, makes this vehicle obvious to any passerby?
Objection, speculation.
I'll rephrase it. Thank you, Deputy. You would agree with me that based upon your 7 years of experience having investigated 9 or so car pedestrian accidents, there was nothing about the way that Mrs. Cologne parked her vehicle that made it appear that she was trying to hide it.
Objection, same. Speculation.
This one's based on her experience, the way it's phrased. You can answer.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay. Wasn't a tarp over it, right?
No, sir.
Now, in photographing this vehicle on that particular day, do you know if Mrs. Cologne was present at the time you photographed the vehicle?
No, she was not.
You don't know if she was not.
She was not.
Do you know how you determined, or the other officers determined, where the vehicle was to go and photograph the vehicle?
I believe she had told one of the officers where it was.
And it was based upon that information that you and other officers arrived at her apartment complex to continue your investigation.
Yes, sir.
Now, this vehicle was towed by Tri-County, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you said it's towed by Tri-County and it's taken to your,
To their inside storage on Okeechobee Road.
their inside storage. And while they're at the inside storage, you then have really unfeathered access to the vehicle to take as many photographs as you want.
Yes, sir.
The windshield in this particular case, the windshield, the damage to the windshield was to the lower right-hand corner of the windshield, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you would agree with me that unlike some of the other accidents you may have investigated, that there was no damage that was center line of the windshield or directly in the view of the driver?
Directly in the view, no.
The part of the beam that you processed for prints, I can't pull it up right now, but we'll get to it later. On the part of the beam where you processed for prints, where it had all the black powder on it, do you know
Yes,
the
sir.
photograph I'm referring to?
Yes, sir.
In that particular photograph, did you find any prints?
We did find ridge detail. There was not enough to do a comparison to make an identification, but there
Okay.
was ridge detail.
All right. So, as we sit here, that particular photograph has no true evidentiary value for
No, sir.
the state showing it, right?
No, sir.
And then the headlights. Do you know if the mechanics are retained to do a check of the vehicle to make sure that it functions, drives properly?
I believe Officer Stokes does all that.
Officer Stokes does all of that. Were you present when that was done?
No, I was not.
You were present when he looked at the headlight though, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you turn the car on to see if the headlights still work?
Yes,
And did it?
I believe so.
Okay. So there again, Mrs. Cologne, well, Mrs. Cologne is the driver of the vehicle. If, based upon your inspection of the vehicle and the headlights, if the headlight worked even though that little lens was broken off, you would agree that to her or any other driver, they would not have any indication of anything changing about damage to their vehicle because their lighting hasn't changed.
Possibly, yes.
Possibly?
The headlight was bent in, so it should have caused some kind of lighting issue.
Some kind of lighting issue on a road that is pitch dark at 6:30 in the morning, where a young girl who is wearing dark clothing was hard to see. Might have caused some issue. You're not sure though?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. Based upon your investigation, well, let me ask you this. You don't determine the point of impact.
No, sir.
That's outside your qualifications, right?
It's not, but we have traffic homicide investigators that do that.
And you didn't
Crime
do
scene.
that in this particular case?
No, on traffic homicides, crime scene is just there to photograph, collect evidence.
Okay, all right. So you have no explanation as to why and how the items that you photographed and that they have the orange ring around them actually ended up in those particular locations, right?
Usually by the impact and the momentum of the
I'm asking you,
speed.
do you have an opinion about how these items, not in general, how these items ended up in that location?
Yes, sir, I do have an opinion.
You do,
Yes.
but that wasn't your job in this particular case.
No, sir.
Okay, so your opinion would not be based upon your scientific evaluation and purpose of photographing the scene.
My opinion would be based on that, but that's not my job in this
Okay.
investigation.
We talked about the headlight. Do you know if the car was actually driven to see if the car drove any differently than
Yes.
what would be expected for a car that is properly maintained?
No, sir, I do not.
Based upon your training and experience, you would agree that if that information was available, it would be helpful to this jury in understanding how the car operated before impact and how the car operated after impact, if there was a difference.
If there was a difference, yes.
I have no further questions.
Any redirect, Mr. Mike?
Yes, Your Honor. Just want to ask you about the erosion off the side of the road. You said you had a chance to photograph sort of Skylark being onto Oleander.
Yes.
I didn't initially put those up, if I may.
Judge, and I caution you, you can't put it, I would object at this point, they're not admitted in evidence.
I'm trying to get them in right now. Did I get a sample here? Your Honor, may I have these marks? Now, first of all, do you know about how many photos you took at the scene total?
No, I have no idea.
I put up, I forget how many it was we went through, but were there more photos than the ones I just put up on the disc?
Yes,
Okay,
I know there were over 100 photos.
over 100 photos, okay. I'm showing you now what's been marked for identification as states 15. Do you recognize this photo and the one after it?
Yes,
I recognize it's black and white, there's the printer, but is that a fair and accurate depiction of that right-hand turn from Skylark onto Oleander?
Yes, it is.
And are these photos that you took?
Yes, sir.
All right. This time the state would request to move states 15 into evidence. Check.
All right, without objection, what's been previously marked as states 15 for identification is now in evidence as states 15.
Request published. Okay. And I can't put this on the screen because I just printed it, but if you could, try and, the jurors can look at this up close later, but you were asked on cross about the vehicle track that ran through the erosion. I think the defense is calling it a pothole, but the erosion off the side of the road. And you said it came from Skylark. Can you explain?
Yes, this is Skylark coming east to west. And you can see the track, the inside one that comes through here. And you can follow it right around. And then you see it go north on Oleander.
Okay. And so does that, the tire marks that were referenced in the photos that were on the screen, you were asked if those appeared fresh, and you said yes, but are these the same tire marks
Yes.
from a vehicle turning right off the Skylark?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Any follow-up?
The fact that there are multiple tire tracks going through that pothole, whether you call it a pothole or an erosion, shows that people have been known to drive through that pothole, correct?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
All right, is Ms. Gregg released?
Yes, sir.
Subject to recall.
Subject to recall.
All right, Ms. Gregg, shall conclude your testimony at this time. You are subject to be recalled for further testimony. You wanted to remain at the courthouse? Or just available?
Just available.
All right, make sure you leave your cell phone on in case you need it, we'll contact you.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Ready to break? Front row, yes? Okay. Thumbs up, you're good, or thumbs up, you need a break? Anybody need a break, raise your hand. All right. Next witness.
Sir. State calls Deputy Garduno.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, sir.
Morning.
Good morning.
You could introduce yourself to the jury by giving us your first and last name, and please spell your last name for the record.
Deputy Jose Garduno. Last name is Garduno.
Deputy, where do you work?
Currently, I work in Martin County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked there?
I've been there since May of 2030.
And currently, what are your responsibilities?
Currently, I'm assigned to road patrol.
And then, where were you working back on September 23rd, 2021?
I was working at Okeechobee County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I was in investigations. I was in investigations roughly 6 years, and prior to that, I was on the road for 4. So I did a total of 10 years at Okeechobee County.
And around September 23rd, 2021, or shortly thereafter, were you contacted by Fort Pierce Police Department to assist with an investigation?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what was the reason you were being contacted?
So my background as in investigations, I assisted with many things with investigations. I was certified to basically what it's called, it's downloading an infotainment center, and that was the reason I was contacted.
And where is an infotainment center found?
So an infotainment center is found directly in the screen, like when you look at your car, obviously you have your radio. Most newer cars now have that screen, and that's considered the infotainment center.
And do you have certain training or experience that qualifies you to be certified to handle and download that information?
Yes, sir. There's a total of numerous hours you have to do. There's also tests that you have to take, and you have to continue that education monthly.
Okay. And at the time, were you certified to perform this task?
Yes, sir.
And what type of data can you obtain from downloading from the infotainment center?
Well, it all depends on the manufacturer and the vehicle. Some vehicles give more than others. It's just like basically like a cell phone. You could get anything from phone calls to locations, GPS coordinates, text messages. It just, again, depends on the manufacturer of the vehicle.
So did you travel to St. Lucie County to collect data from a 2017 Chevy Cruze?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how do you go about downloading that?
So through the training and experience, obviously, there's various steps that you have to take. This particular instance was an OnStar, so that was located in a different part of the vehicle. Through this training, you're giving a manual of where this data is located. You then extract what is considered a motherboard. You extract that motherboard, and then I take that with me and download it on the software.
And how is the data, how does it appear to the user?
So to the user, it would appear in a PDF format. On my end, I would see it visually on my software.
And you recall in this case approximately how many key pages in that PDF were compiled?
I don't remember the exact number, but I know it was in the hundreds.
And what type of data was available to you upon download?
This particular data was GPS coordinates and speeds, along with the information that pertain to that vehicle, such as like the VIN number, what the year the vehicle was, and stuff like that.
And where it showed GPS coordinates and speed, did it also show the time and date that that data was, I guess, logged?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review the records in this case from that download?
Yes, I have.
If I may approach Judge? All right, sir, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as states 13.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you take a look at that?
Yep.
I think it's about 5 pages.
Okay.
Do you recognize what you're looking at?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
This is actually the PDF format that we were talking that the case officer or anybody would be able to see.
Okay. Now, the last 2 pages there.
Yep.
What is, we're not publishing yet, but what are those basically, what is that showing us?
So it's basically like a table. So first you'll have the number that's associated with the date, the time, the timestamp. Then you have the GPS, which is latitude, longitude, gives you the distance that the travel that occurred, and then it'll give you a speed.
Okay. And then can you look at that and if you're at a certain date, like if you're curious about, let's say, September 23rd,
Yes.
2021, are you able to look at the coordinates for those times?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that contained there on the final pages of that document that you have in front of you?
It is.
All right. This time the state requests to move states 13 into evidence. Judge, can we report?
Ladies and gentlemen, there's an issue I need to take up with your attorneys outside of the presence. This is a good opportunity for our mid-morning break. Go ahead and follow the deputies, leave your pad face down and take on your seats. Thank you.